Hi, welcome to this podcast. I'm doing it as part of standard costing. Basically, we're going to be looking at variances. It will come up in other guises as part of management accounting in A2 for the students that I teach. But the variance is basically a difference between what we plan to do and what we're actually achieving. And one of the goals of the business is to try and constantly reduce that gap between what they are achieving and what they would like to achieve. And to do that, you need to have accurate information about how far away you are in terms of the performance. Very simple example here of what we mean by variances. Okay, we've got a firm that's got a basic income statement with some planned information about what they want to do in the budget, and then to the right, it's got the differences. The differences are straightforward. It's just the difference between the planned and the actual output. And don't worry too much here about whether it's a positive or negative number at the moment. We'll talk about that in just a moment. So it's 40,000 difference between the sales. It's actually down. The materials cost has actually gone up. The labour costs have gone down, and so have the overheads. Now, in terms of sales decreasing, we described that as an adverse variance. And the reason why we'd say it was an adverse variance, reducing our sales is going to help to reduce our profit. So an adverse variance is one which reduces profit. So it's either a fall in sales, or if you look at the materials, here the materials have gone up in cost. That will help to reduce sales because we've increased the cost. So any rise in costs is also an adverse variance. With the other two costs, they've both actually fallen. So we class those as a favourable variance because in both cases, that is going to increase the overall profit. If we reduce our costs, our profit is going to go up. So favourable variance is one which increases profit, and that would either be a rise in sales or a fall in costs. And I've deliberately here done this for a business where planned and actual output remain the same. A bit later on in this topic, we will have to consider what would happen if output changed, but clearly it would be unfair, for example, on the buying department of a business if the actual number of units sold is decreased, if they were to be criticised or potentially lose bonuses because they were not responsible for that decline in value. Although here, sales have gone down, materials have gone up, so you would be looking and thinking, well, there might be a problem here in the purchases department anyway. Okay, now the other thing to look at here is we've got two adverse variances which total 50,000 and one favourable variance, two favourable variances, sorry, which total 40,000. So overall, we would expect a 10,000 adverse variance on the profit. And if we look here at the two profits, the profit has gone down, and therefore we have got a 10,000 adverse variance. So just something to bear in mind. We do look at an income statement and we look at the adverse and favourable variances. The overall adverse or favourable impact on the business should be the same as the change in the profit. Right, for my students, there's a quick worksheet to do there. It's quite simple. I don't think you'll have too many problems with it. Obviously, share it back with me and I'll have a look at it. Okay, and then there's just a little bit more theory. So if you're going to do the worksheets, you can, if you want to, pause the video. Okay, management by exception. I've added an extra column in here because it's quite common in the real world to see percentages also looked at as a percentage. And what they may do is put a negative number in for the two adverse variances. And the way that a business uses this is, first of all, it's normally done on a monthly basis. So every month, they will have broken down their annual budget into months, and there will be a report generated for managers then to go and work on, which will say exactly both how much in terms of currency, pounds, dollars, KD, and also in terms of percentages by how different the actual costs and incomes are compared to the budgeted. And what managers would tend to do is to do something called management by exception. And what we mean by management by exception is we wouldn't look at all the variances. Firms may either choose to look at the largest variances, so in here that would be the sales and the labour variance, or the largest in terms of percentage, so labour and overheads, or they may have some rules that you look at all variances over a certain percentage and all variances over a certain monetary value. Okay, so there will be rules in place generally that managers will follow. They will look at the negative variances, and the idea there is to take early action. If there's something going wrong in a firm that means certain costs are increasing quite quickly, then what the firm will be looking to do is to try to put some action in place to bring those costs down. So, for example, if they are buying materials at a much higher price, they would look for an alternative supplier. But they will also look at the positive variances, and this is important. We need to look at what's made that variance favourable. Because if we achieved a favourable variance, is this something that we've changed in the business that's having the positive impact? Okay, so we look at all of them, and the real reason why we're doing this is very important. Obviously, the most important reason for doing management by exception is that then gives managers a really strong focus on the most important issues for them to tackle. So the key things are that we get the right data to the managers, so they're aware of the adverse and favourable variances and their size. And then the managers, because you've only got 30 days in a month, you might only have 10, 15 days after you get the report, so normally it's more quick than that to actually take action. And then the managers have clear rules and understanding of what it is they then need to focus on to improve the performance of the business. Right, thank you very much for listening. Have a great day. If you're one of my students, email me any questions. Bye-bye.